Bam. So officially, I want to welcome everybody to a Thursday night Thrive or Thrive Thursday. And Kathy, I'm gonna pass it off to you and let you introduce our wonderful guest. We were sitting here just chit-chatting, reminiscing for a little while. So Kathy, I'll pass it over to you.
Well, fabulous. Thank you so much. And yes, thank you. Welcome to our newly named hashtag Thrive Thursday Zoom. I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to do this on Thursdays because these are the kinds of things that we need to do to thrive in our business. Um, this evening, we have Queen with us. We have, Minuan and I have known Queen. The three of us have known each other for quite some time in different varying um, methodologies. And she has ended up being literally the queen of Airbnb in the DMV. So when people started asking about Airbnb, there was only one person for me to call. And, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to know people who are in these specific niches within real estate so we can call on our friends and have them share their knowledge with us and know that we're getting good knowledge. And what's really great is that we are in a network of like-minded people who are willing to share their knowledge. So thank you so much. We'll be seeing Queen in the spring of 2022 at I think it's the March meetup. I'm not sure if it's February or March, but one of those two. And I'm hoping that maybe we'll have an article from her for the newsletter in the spring also.
Awesome.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about how you got started with Airbnb and what's happening with Airbnb. Because I know prior to the pandemic, lots of things were changing, lots of new legislation. And so where are things?
So, great question to get started on everything. Well, thank you again for actually having me. I'm super excited to be able to share the knowledge with everyone. Right now, we are seeing a big shift in the industry. I don't think anybody thought that Airbnb was going to be as big as it has been, honestly. Like most people were thinking that it was just going to be like a smaller company, more like a grassroots organization. I don't think that they thought at all that it was going to explode as it did. What ended up happening was that we have a lot of hotel lobbyists because the money is so long. And we had a lot of hotel lobbyists that once they realized that they were losing out on so much clientele, that they ended up going ahead and putting out a lot of legislations in certain areas. Now, luckily, you do have small businesses that were organized enough in certain areas, such as Washington, D.C., New Orleans, other places that were able to stop certain legislations from preventing their businesses to grow. But in areas such as Baltimore, where a majority of our properties actually were, I want to say we had probably about like 9 to 10 of our properties in Baltimore City. You have legislation that actually completely trampled Airbnb hosts. So now you have certain licenses and things that have to be put in place in order for you to even place your properties on the website. Now, you do have other websites and other platforms that still do work. You still do have TripAdvisor, you have Booking.com, you have a couple of hosting websites for nurses, for traveling nurses, that you can still post your listings on without you having to use those rental licenses. But as far as Baltimore City, when it comes to Airbnb specifically, the property does have to be in your name in order for you to post and in order for you to even acquire a license. So that's not to discourage everybody. I'm going to give you some juice and some sauce. I'm going to give you some great, amazing information from my actual boot camp. So this is going to be free to you all. We stopped doing the boot camp just so that we could like revamp everything, but the information is still valid. I'm still consulting with people. I just don't do it on a larger scale because I don't have as much time, honestly. But I'm gonna be able to give you all of that information in a few. Just let me know whenever you want me to start sharing my screen, and I'll get the presentation rocking and rolling.
Thank you, Queen. How would you like the questions? Would you like it now or a little bit later or throughout? Let me know.
Let's do some questions now, and then I'll go into a couple of slides just to help people with some information, and especially for the people who are going to be watching the recording later. So yeah, let's keep on going with the questions. Let's keep on flowing.
Okay. One thing, so back before COVID, and for those who don't know, I'm located in Charleston, South Carolina right now. I used to be in the same area as Queen and Kathy in the DC and Baltimore area. So for those that are familiar with the DC area, I had just started, and Queen, you catch on to what's about to happen. I had just started doing master leases in Alexandria, Virginia, for the sole purpose of doing Airbnb, which meant that I was on the hook for that rent every month right before COVID started. Queen, you know what the prices of a townhouse 3-bedroom in Alexandria Old Town are.
Yeah.
Folks, we're talking north of $3,000 all day long. Some of them pushing almost $4,000 rent. Okay. I was about to lock up 2 of them.
Okay.
An agent messed up one of them.
Okay.
And COVID hit during the second.
Okay.
So in hindsight, I'm sitting back like, thank God I didn't get those.
Yeah.
Because when COVID came, Airbnb, and you correct me on anything I'm wrong about, nobody was traveling. So nobody, if you had an Airbnb, then unless you were the owner, you were losing your shirt if you were doing it like I was.
Yeah.
And luckily, I never got started from a mass perspective. But now that we're past most of it and travel, at least now that we're back to traveling, okay?
Yes.
I got my eye on it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you better believe I'm gonna be contacting you a lot. Like, hey, Queen, you know.
Nah, let's get it. I'm super stoked about traveling, like being open again. I don't think anybody could have expected what happened in regards to the Airbnb space. If you are actually able to make me host, I could share something really quick on my screen so that everybody can see it.
So I did already make it where everybody can share. See if you can share.
Let's see. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So I'm just going to show one of the slides that I have. So let me tell you in regards to that. Now, when it comes to what happened with the pandemic, nobody could have foreseen that happening. Like, it's just not something that we were expecting.
True.
Nobody was expecting. I think the only people that honestly made out pretty okay were people who were in the trucking industry. Yeah, people who are in the trucking industry. That was like one of the only industries that I think were pretty decent, because nobody wanted to be on the road. Nobody wanted to do anything. Now, I know one thing that happened with our short-term rentals, we had a lot of people that were throwing parties during that time. So it was a little crazy for us because people couldn't travel. So therefore they were like staying in the house. and then they were throwing house parties at our Airbnbs. What the company did do, and that's why it's very important to get insurance. What the company did do is they were paying out around 50% of what you were supposed to get in order to basically kind of like offset what those costs were. But I mean, it was still really crazy because we went from making 5 figures a month to now you knock out, you're down back to 4 figures a month. And I'm not talking about just like meeting 5 figures, like we were doing a pretty good job. So with that being said, the number one thing that COVID did teach me is that your credit needs to be on point. So this is the slide that I was going through to try to get to here. So my credit, as you see, is still in the workings. This is like average credit. My credit went all the way down, as you see, to the 400s during COVID, just because it was so much over leverage with my business. And that's one thing that I think is good. If everybody remembers around the time in 2008, when everybody was doing like a fix this, flip that type of course, and everybody was able to get started in real estate, and they pretty much did not know what they were doing, but everybody was investing in real estate back at that time. 2000, was it 2008? Yeah, it was 2008. Now I feel like I'm getting old. Okay, yes, it was 2008 when the bubble burst. But everybody was investing in real estate, even like your average person that was just working a 9-to-5 job, because it was very easy for you to get started. That's kind of what I was seeing the trend being with short-term rentals, is that everybody was just getting started around that time. So then you have this crash that happens with the hospitality, because don't get it twisted, short-term rentals is nothing but customer service and the hospitality business blended in one. The problem that we're solving is that people need the real estate to stay in. So they need a place to stay in. But this is really hospitality. So the hospitality industry, period, crashed. So with that being said, it's a reset now. In 2008, you had everybody that was investing in real estate. They didn't really know what they were doing when the crash happened. Only the strong survived. It's the same thing that's going on right now. You only have the strong businesses that were able to pretty much withstand the hit. So anybody that's interested in investing, I would definitely say that you really need to work on your credit, and you need to make sure that you have more than enough working capital. I am a super risky person, I'm not gonna lie. So I will spend my last to see a business deal go through. I used to. Now I don't do that anymore. So now my company has been able to leverage not only my personal credit, but our company credit. And that's how we're staying over the water with everything. So I have probably about maybe like 8 to 10 times in reserves compared to what we need in order for the company to operate, just because we went through this crash. So I just wanted to show everybody, like, look, look at me in the fours. This is like poor man credit. Like, this is horrible.
Can I jump in on this one right quick?
Absolutely.
People don't understand. You can continue to share whatever slide you want to share, but my credit does that. If I want to go to the loan and get a bank, it's got to be like after I paid down the credit cards and they've reported, I'm like, okay, I got a 2-week window to go to the bank and ask for a refi. Because boy, if they run that after I go buy supplies and and run up my credit cards, shoot, you wake up the next morning and be like, your credit score just went down 121 points. You're like,
listen,
bought up some materials and I wanted to get the miles on my credit card.
Right.
Hey, people don't understand. And I tell them all the time, yeah, you can get started with no credit, but in the long game, your personal credit got to be right, and you need to be building that business credit. And if the personal credit is right, Yeah, you can build the business credit without the personal, but when the personal is back in the business, because the personal is good, man, you get your business credit like 5 times faster, 5 times as much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I built my business credit getting ready to do a course or business behind it
Right.
because it's that business credit is amazing.
It is. It is. I'm happy that you're actually able to utilize it. Like, we haven't been able to utilize it as efficiently as I would like. We're still building on, we have more than enough credit lines on Duns and Brad, Equifax, and Experian. We're still building more credibility with Duns and Bradstreet, but definitely I would say being able to actually have a company run your business credit profile instead of your personal credit profile, like that's so dope. That's so amazing.
No
And
student loans on there. No student loans on there. Like,
my student loans are out of control. Get a master's, they say, get a PhD. Like, man, I'm over it. But another thing, so you're in Charleston, South Carolina. So I actually have a property out in Charleston, and Charleston is a dope place. One thing, like I said, short-term rentals is nothing but hospitality and customer service. So for anybody that's looking at places to get started, the one thing that you do want to do, you want to check in your own backyard and see if you have any license restrictions. Baltimore, like I said, I still live in the Baltimore City area for now. Baltimore, we have the license restriction where you have to be on title in order for you to rent your property on short-term rental platforms now. You have areas such as New Orleans where you have to do the same thing. You do have to get a license, but you don't have the license restriction. Now, the reason why I said Charleston, my family is actually from Charleston, so I love Charleston. I'm James Allen. I don't know if you know Mosquito Beach. That is that's my family's area. So we are from Charleston. Whatever the case may be, that is like number 7 on the top cities that are visited in the United States. So that is an area that is perfect for short-term rentals, because if it's a high tourist area, that means that people are looking at hotels. If people are looking at hotels, they're looking at Airbnbs. So you want to go where the money is, but you also kind of want to dibble and dabble in your own backyard. See if you could get started with your actual property. See if you can get started with an extra bedroom. See if you can get started with something that is not as big of a financial risk, especially if you don't have the business capital, if you don't have the personal credit, if you don't have those things. Because what COVID taught us is that anything could change in a fly, especially with all these different regulations that are going on right now. You don't know what's going to happen. So you just don't want to over leverage. I'm going to share another screen so that people can see how real it is. So my company, we went from having actually over, let me go back to it. We had over, this is the amount in bookings that we were getting before. Let me share this back so people could see. And anybody that's on IG Live, just click the link inside of my bio and you'll be able to get on so you could see the screen share that I'm doing right now. So my company, as you see, this is what we made in 2 months. And we didn't even have as many properties as we did before. So this is what we were able to get. And this is just off of our master leases. Now, I had properties that were like under other people's names and stuff like that, just for the purpose of us being able to get certain perks and things. But we were at 28,000 when COVID hit. We went all the way down to $5,000 a month. Do you know how hard that hit somebody, going from 28,000 to 5,000, and then you're on the hook for all of those leases? So if you didn't have money in the bank, if you didn't have reserves, if you didn't have any of that, you pretty much failed at that point in time. So with that being said, like, you gotta build the personal credit, the business credit. If you work at your job and you get W-2s, like, some people try to knock W-2s and they're about this entrepreneurial life. Listen, I've been an entrepreneur since 2015. It is not the business like everyone says it is. Like, those W-2s, that personal credit is going to get you in the door to be able to propel your business forward. So long story short, that was a long-winded version, but I would definitely suggest that for everyone. Get that stuff together or partner with somebody that has that stuff together, and you'll be able to withstand any of this craziness that is going down, because it's going down. I don't even think we're going to have cash soon. Like, it's so bad, all of this stuff that's going on, but it's opportunities and all of this weirdness. So
They're printing too much money.
It's always an opportunity.
Printing too much money. But to your point about that W-2, one of the ways that we continue to be able to get our hard money so easily is that my husband, who is one of our partners in our LLC, he maintains his W-2 job. Like, he would never leave. He thinks he thinks being an entrepreneur is crazy.
right.
Anyway, but it helps us.
Yeah.
It helps us.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now I've learned a lot through my business partnerships, but I've had some great partnerships. I had some not so great partnerships, but I just saw the leverage that my business partners had over me just because they were working 9-to-5 jobs. They just didn't have the time to run the company and run the businesses like I did because I was an entrepreneur. So I gained the experience of entrepreneurship, but still at the same time, it was very difficult trying to venture off on my own just because I didn't have that backing. So if you're still at your 9-to-5 job, like, don't knock it. Everybody is talking about this boss life and all of that stuff. Like, it's cool, but you still have to know that all of these institutions, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, unless your company is just too big to fail or you just have enough of a track rate, they're asking for those W-2s and they're running that personal credit all day long, all day long.
Entrepreneur life is great as long as the money is flowing.
Exactly. A word.
Let you have a health problem, let the government change something.
Absolutely.
Forget it.
Absolutely. You always have to have some type of back, most definitely. I'm going to let me share some more so you all were able to see that. So
see, Kathy, she uses Canva also.
Oh, absolutely.
I see. I'm learning.
I had to get my VA honestly to get me like completely invested in Canva. So I want to say I learned about Canva 3 years ago and I shut my account down like after the first week. So don't feel bad. Don't feel bad at all. But so basically, I want to show y'all from where I got started in regards to how I even got started with the short-term rentals. So I started fixing and flipping, and this is around the time where we all met, just going to meetups and RIAs because I had lost over $60,000. I tell this story all the time, so no one thinks it's been peaches and cream. I lost over 60K, so I had to lose over $60,000 in order for me to start making $28,000 a month. So this is where we started. So we had a shady lending company. I started with fixing and flipping. I hated fixing and flipping. So I actually got started with wholesaling. I hated wholesaling. Yeah.
Queen, can I stop you for 1 second? And this is just something we've been telling everybody. You said you started flipping, right? When you got in real estate, that was the very first thing you did. You didn't do wholesaling or nothing.
No.
Kathy, what do we say the hardest real estate strategy out there is?
Rehabbing.
Yeah.
Rehabbing. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you playing with way too much money. Way too much money. Put it like this. If you never flipped a house before or partnered with somebody on a flip, that's like somebody giving you $200,000 at the casino. You're gonna play a game at the casino that you never played before, and they're gonna tell you you're gonna play this $200,000, and damn it, you're gonna get me $230 back. How many of y'all think y'all gonna get that $230 back?
Not at all.
Just to let you know that if you've never done anything in real estate and you going out there by yourself, get ready. But anyway, Queen, I digress. You continue on. I just wanted to make that clip and that point firm. Don't let HGTV get y'all in trouble.
They definitely do get them in trouble. What were you about to say, Kathy, before I keep on going?
I was gonna say you lost 60,000 on your first two flips, and Karen and I, we lost about 75 on our first one. And we were partnering with somebody who, quote unquote, knew what they were doing.
Ain't that the worst?
Because the people that we were working with at the time lied. So you really have to know, if you're working with a mentor, you really have to know that they are trustworthy. You really have to know your partner, your lender. I mean,
you have to know your lender.
You have
to know your lender.
And your contractor. I mean, you have to like dig deep to find out about these people, because they will lie, cheat, and steal.
Right? And they can smell. It's definitely, and this isn't to discourage anybody. Like, this is just to make sure that you're on your P's and Q's. My lawyer told me about one of my business partners when I first got started. They were just like, you know, everything doesn't look right, but sometimes you'll get so eager. But you definitely do have to burn your boats too at the same time. So all of the lessons that I learned, it just makes me so on point. So you are going to have disappointments when you first get started in this, but don't get too disappointed, because like you see, I lost that, but I made this. So it's coming. It's coming.
That's right.
You do have to cover a seed with dirt. So the dirt is your dark period, your everything that you need in order to learn how to really move forward. It's some tough lessons. You learn a lot of lessons about yourself. I would definitely say I learned so many lessons about myself that I didn't know from just being in this industry. Like, I thought I was perfect before I got started with real estate. And when I got started in real estate, I was like, wow, I got some stuff I need to get fixed for my company to be successful. Like, I wasn't ready for this self-development journey. But long story short, so we did lose the 60,000 first getting started. That was on two separate flips, just from you know, not knowing how to handle business partners properly, not having the proper contracts, not knowing the proper lenders. But it really helped me to get my network started. And if I didn't lose that 60K, I would have never met y'all, because it would have been no reason for me to start going to RIAs, to start networking with people. So that was an expensive ass lesson, but a lesson nonetheless. So with that being said, I got started with wholesaling, but like I said, I created a job. And for anybody who doesn't know what wholesaling is, that's on IG. So basically what I was able to do, I was able to find the deals, because like, I network really well with people, and that's one of my superpowers, and I know that now. So when it comes to me networking with people, when it comes to me reaching out to people, following up with them, I do a really great job at that. So for me to wholesale, it was easy because I could connect with people very easy in regards to just like follow-ups, all that stuff, easy to build a team. So when I did that, I quickly regained the money that I lost. However, it was a job. It's very transactional. So I placed the properties under contract. The properties that I placed under contract, I flipped them to other people. I pretty much flipped my interest. So I wasn't buying the properties. I was just exchanging the interest that I had. So I had my name on the contract, changed my name over to someone else that's interested in the property that's going to go through with the transaction. That's pretty much how wholesaling is. So that was a job. Like, it's 1 month. I remember this was the worst like week ever. Like, this was the worst feeling ever. I had made 8,000 in a day, and then for the next, and this was just off of like all my deals just closed on one day, but they were like all really small deals. It's Baltimore City. So I had all those deals that closed on one day, and this is when I first got started, so I felt like I was on top. And then I turned around and I didn't close anything for like another 2 months. So that's how wholesaling was. So I was like, no, I need residuals. So what I ended up doing, I got started with short-term rentals in order to get that residual income. But the net profit is key. It doesn't matter what anybody says in regards to a business. I don't care how much somebody says that they make. If they are not making net profit, then they're not making any profit. I don't care how much gross you make. You could make $1 million in gross. If your bills are $1.5 million, you are
losing money.
You're losing money. So like I said, we made a lot of mistakes, but this is like one of my first properties, and I want you to see the actual the clarity in this picture, because there is no clarity in this picture. Like, this is a good picture for a Zoom, but this picture is horrible compared to how Airbnb is now, and that's how it's grown. Like, you really need to make sure that you have proper photography. You really need to make sure that you have a good staff, a good staging team. The place is staged great, but things have changed drastically from 2017 from when I got started. Also in 2017, when I got started, I didn't have a virtual team. So I was doing all of the communications by myself, and I got burnt out, and that pretty much halted me from moving forward in the business. So just to show you how quickly this can escalate, in June of 2017, when I got back on the platform, my first month, this is, and I apologize for the grayness of these pictures. This is a 2017 picture that I took, so don't.
Resolution.
The resolution.
Yeah, 760 versus 4K, okay? Like,
so
that's all right, Queen.
So this is how much I made on the first month me getting back on the platform. At that time, I had 2 properties that were on the platform. No, 3 properties actually, and I only made 1,100. Then after that, the next month I went to 2,700, just staying consistent. The next month I got to 4,300, and this is from 3 properties. And then after that, I was quickly at 5,000 to 6,000. My overhead was only 3,000, so residuals was 3,000 net from off of master leasing. So for those of you who don't know what master leasing is, I'm going to talk about it briefly a little bit later, but this is how booked my calendar was after just 3 months in the business. So it moves quickly when you have a good product. Don't get discouraged. You could definitely do this. It moves super quick. Your product just has to be good. And that was a good product for 2017. All right. Don't nobody talk about my picture. It was a dope product in 2017. It's just a little different now. And like I showed, this is what we were able to gross in just a month, a year later. So leasing and contracts, for those of you who want to do master leases, you can still do master leases. My apologies, my throat is parched.
Okay.
You can still do master leases. However, you just need to make sure that you don't have license restrictions inside of your area. If you don't have license restrictions within your area, move forward as if your life depends on it with master leases, because what that is going to do is that is going to put you in a contract with someone so that you don't have to go out and put all of this money into purchasing one property. The reason why I was able to make 6 figures in under 6 months is because I was able to go out and do a master lease on over 12 properties. That same amount of money would have been just used to do a down payment for a property. So master leasing is definitely powerful. My apologies, Kathy. What were you saying?
That's okay. Sorry to interrupt you. My question is, how, like, what department within a city or county do you contact to find out about the laws on the Airbnb?
Great question. Great question. So you would look at your housing department. So for Baltimore, it's housing and permits. So you can check with them because they are typically going to be the ones that are going to issue out the license for in your area. Now, you can also just Google short-term rental license in whatever city that you're in. So it's not the state, it's the city. For instance, Montgomery County does not allow Airbnbs in Annapolis. And I want to say it's because you have a lot of city officials that live out there. So they're very strict on Airbnbs within that area. They really don't allow them too often. Now, with that being said, you would need to look up the regulations from Montgomery County. Montgomery County is still in Maryland. So I'm in Baltimore City. Montgomery County is maybe about like 30 miles away from me. With that being said, I can't use the regulations in Montgomery County in order to see what's going on in Baltimore City. So you got to make sure that you look up your specific city. Like in Louisiana, I know from one of my partners that New Orleans requires a license, but the license can be in different people's names. That's a good thing. So with that, with you having that licensing, you need to look up the regulations also as well and check to see if the license needs to be in your name. Does the property need to be in your name? Because if the property needs to be in your name, then for an entrepreneur, that kind of screws you. Because I know I don't put any of my properties in my name. Like I'm about to finally get one of my first properties in my name. I've never had a property in my name because for me, that doesn't make sense. But in Baltimore City, you have to have the property in your name. In New Orleans, you don't have to have the property in your name, but you can only get a certain amount of licenses. So just Google it, honestly. But your housing department, whoever gives out permits and licenses within your city, for us, we will go down to 417 East Fayette Street in Baltimore City, and you'll be able to get that information.
Thank you.
I do know here in Charleston, you have to have something. I've only been here about three and a half years. So when I first got here, I wasn't focused on Airbnb. But when I did start to get focused on it, I remember riding around downtown, and many of them would have, several of the houses downtown would have the big bright fluorescent orange or fluorescent yellow notice that this property has applied for what's the word? Short-term rental. So I haven't really dug into it, but I do know you have to have something. I want to say I've heard people overhearing them say you need to have that residence in your name, or you need to say you live there, something like that. But I'll look into that later, and we'll get together and talk on that.
Yeah, definitely, because in those areas where you have to have that done, see, a commercial lease wouldn't work. You doing master leases would not work because the property would be in the owner's name. So you wouldn't be able to go ahead. It's not a subleasing. It's commercial leasing because you never lease to anybody that's staying in your Airbnb. You don't lease to them. They're staying in there for a short amount of period of time. So therefore it's not considered a lease. Now, the regulation that happened in Baltimore, what happened was that they were able to consider people who stayed in your property for 90 days or less as short-term rental guests. Now, if anybody knows, nobody stays inside of your short-term rental for 90 days. That is like an extreme, like no one's staying there for 90 days. That's a stretch. So with that being said, they were able to get that regulation passed. And that's why you have so many hosts that now have to get the license. In Charleston, we were turning our property into a bed and breakfast once we put a module on there. So we're not going to list it on Airbnb, but long story short, we were not told that we have to do that. But I know that a lot of the hotels were losing, like I said, Charleston was number 7 on the tourist list, and that was in 2018. So they were losing so much money that it just didn't make sense for them to keep on allowing these smaller businesses to be able to, you know, thrive in that arena.
Okay.
So this is an amendment that we add to our commercial lease, and we typically use our company name, but sometimes I have had to use my personal name in order to, you know, get things rocking and rolling. So don't be scared if that does happen, but I usually do like to use our company name in order to make this work. So like I said, make sure to check to see if your city requires a license before you invest, because if you would have invested in those properties in Virginia, and then they turned around and said that you need a license, you already would have been locked in for that lease. That could have messed up your credit terribly if that person wanted to take you to court. Like, you just got to make sure that you stay on your P's when it comes to that. I already went over the credit piece. The credit is very important because a lot of funding I was able to do. So you used to have companies that were able to fund your short-term rentals. They're hard to find now. One of the companies that I used in order to fund my short-term rental, it was called Clearwater, if I'm not mistaken. Clearwater or Clearview. But basically, they're like a non-traditional e-commerce lender. And they lend to non-traditional companies that have an online presence that are able to prove that they are having success in their business. So they tapped into our Airbnb profile. They checked to see if we were really making the bookings that we said we were making. They verified that we were actually making the money that we said. And with that, they were able to fund us. So you do have companies like that, but they're so far and few that the personal credit is just going to be better to move towards with that. And we do have resources if anybody does need to improve anything on their personal credit. So just let me know. Supplies is a super important thing as well. So I'm going to touch on one thing on the supply list, and I'm going to show you how important supplies are. So in regards to us actually getting fewer and fewer calls in the middle of the night, because like I said, this is customer service. So we used to get calls all times of the night. It's me answering the calls because I, at that time, did not have everything automated. So now I'm answering calls in the middle of the night. People are asking questions about how does everything work. If you could just think of how annoying it is for somebody to call you at 2 a.m. asking about how your remote works. Like, I can't tell you how frustrated I used to be before I figured this stuff out. So one trick that I'm gonna let you all know, for our TVs, we do not use anything besides a TCL Roku TV. The smallest TV you'll be able to get away with without it looking too awkward inside of your space is going to be a 32-inch TV. So TCL Roku, reason why that is so important. And this is how crazy the short-term rental arena is, because you would never think about that. TCL Roku has this kind of remote. This is actually the This remote is actually from a Roku that you plug into the TV. So if you already have smart TVs and you don't want to switch them out, get the Roku adapter. And the Roku adapter is only like $30. So you don't have to go out and buy a whole new TV. So this is the one that has a tag on the bottom. That's from the one with the adapter. Whatever case may be. So you have the main channels on the bottom for the Roku TV. But here's the important thing. The Wi-Fi knocks out on a lot of smart TVs. This all goes into your guest experience, your customer experience. This is all stuff that nobody thinks about until you're in the industry. Now, we have these things that we use, and this is for my personal house, so y'all don't make fun of me. I know I got tape on it. This is what I use for my house. If it wasn't an Airbnb, it would be prettier, okay? But I got the printout, don't talk about me. This is for my home, for when my friends and stuff come over. But we have these around the house in our Airbnbs so that people aren't calling us all times of the night asking for what the Wi-Fi password is, even though it is in their check-in information. People don't read. So now you have this, they do not read. So you have the TV that's knocking off the internet. You have people that don't read, that don't know where to find the Wi-Fi information. We used to get so many calls just about Wi-Fi. This sounds so simple, but this is the stuff that makes or breaks your business. So now with the TCL Roku, it goes back online automatically without you having to do anything. So now that eliminates you getting those phone calls. On top of that, if it doesn't go back online automatically, they can easily put the TV back online because it saves your password and your information. This is the only smart TV that we have found that does that. I didn't tell you any rocket science information. I didn't say anything crazy just now. That alone is going to increase your ratings because you don't have people that are getting frustrated at 2 a.m. because they were on the couch with popcorn watching TV and it knocked off the internet and they don't know how to work it. That increases your ratings. Your ratings are going to increase your bookings. Your bookings are going to increase the feedback that you get on your profile when people leave you reviews. On top of that, that's going to improve your customer service because you don't have people who are dragging you in the middle of the night talking about my Wi-Fi knocked off. So that right there seems so simple, but that's one of the biggest hacks that we found.
Let me jump in and say this right quick. I travel a lot, especially overseas. I have to tell you, I knew who was running Airbnb for the long haul versus somebody who was new. Because the people whose place I stayed in, man, let me tell you, it was always 2 printouts. One was over there in front of the TV and another one was in the kitchen. The 2 places you're going to have to go. And it would have Wi-Fi password, blah, 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 blah. If this happens, blah, 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 blah. Like clear instructions. Because, and I didn't even tell you this, real short. A long time ago, when I was still in Crystal City, right when Amazon was announcing that they were coming. Okay. Me and my significant other, she stayed in downtown DC. I'm like, I'm not here. Let me throw this thing on Airbnb. I'm walking distance to the Crystal City Metro. It's across the street. Oh, yeah. I can walk to Reagan Airport. So you already know what type of bookings and paper I'm getting for a little old studio. I'm looking at McCormick and Schmick on Crystal Drive. Oh, yeah. Everything. Hey, girl, my stuff stayed booked 30 days. Yeah. 30 days. Man, those people coming in, that was the number one thing they would ask. What's the Wi-Fi password? And how did I work the TV? After like the 4th or 5th one, I was like, man, screw this. Print this stuff out on a piece of paper. This is, hey, phone call ceased. Yeah. Ceased. Yeah. And most people were just coming in. I would have to say 50, 60% of the people were literally catching a flight from somewhere else, like out of Dallas the next morning, and just needed somewhere to shower and crash. Location was huge for me right there. But yeah, that goes back to what you were saying, just the simple stuff. That's all people want. hey, I want some hot water. What's the Wi-Fi? And does the TV work?
It's the simplest stuff, and I'm so happy that you were able to figure that out, because like a lot of people, I don't think that it's so simple, it's so easy to mess up. Like it's so that like this business is so simple, it's so easy to mess up. It's the same thing that I tell people all the time when it comes to flipping. You know, people watch HGTV all the time and they like, oh, I could do this. Oh, no. It seems so simple. It's so easy for you to actually mess this up. So you need to like really, I always talk about people getting trainings, and not just getting somebody that's just talking all loud on Instagram or something, but really looking for the people who actually have success in the business and go and get those trainings. Even if you get their little 1-day intensive for like $97 or a book or something, just get something that you could reference. I had somebody ask me on Instagram, hey Natia, who does your decorating for Airbnb? So for my decorating, I'm not that good with decorating at all. I had my sister actually help me. So my old started off with doing the decorations, and my sister started helping me with doing the decorations. That's another thing. So another hack, my ratings were not good at all when I was cheaping out on supplies and materials. So when Airbnb first got started, people didn't have a lot of different options to go to. So you could get away with getting one of those $97 mattresses and not have to worry about anything. And when the competition got a little bit steeper, then you had to start using more high quality products. So on the supply list right here, I would say the important things that you cannot cheap out on. You can't cheap out on pillows, mattresses. I don't do box springs at all because they never fit in the next house that you take it to. They are a waste of freaking money. So get the metal frames or get a split box spring. You don't really need headboards. If you do feel like you need a headboard, go ahead. But if you get the metal frame and you don't do the headboard, you can have artwork on top of the metal frame. So therefore it gives the illusion that you have a headboard. The other thing I wouldn't cheap out on is one good comforter set. Don't cheap out on one good comforter set. But the other ones that are replacement comforters, you can, just make sure that they're like regular Walmart comforter sets. That's fine. The smart TV, like I said, TCL Roku. And you also don't want to cheap out on, if you're getting a full-length mirror, do not cheap out on that, because that is going to set the room off. Honestly, I've seen a difference from me getting like one of those little plasticky mirrors to me getting a really sturdy, one of the ones that have like all the elegant things around it. I don't know why these are the things that people like, but this is what they like. It's customer service, it's hospitality, that's what they want, that's what I do. If you do not happen to have somebody in your family or somebody in your business that is good at staging, another thing that my company did is we started to look for real estate stagers. So that's another thing that you can do as well. So if you know of any real estate stagers, if you know any real estate agents, actually, they know stagers as well. They'll be able to stage the property for you for your photos. And that's a great question to segue. You need to make sure that you have somebody that is experienced in taking real estate pictures, not somebody that knows how to take IG model pictures, not somebody that takes and stuff. They need to know how to take property photos, because they have to be able to capture all of the angles of the room, especially the bedroom, the kitchen, and the bathroom. Those are the important areas that they need to capture. So if you know any real estate agents, or if you just Google stagers, those are also good resources in order for them to be able to go ahead and stage your property so that you can have it look aesthetically pleasing. It's almost like an MLS listing now at this point in time. And there we go, staging and photography, super important. Now, listing and marketing the property, you have a bunch of short-term rental platforms, but it's Airbnb, VRBO, and TripAdvisor, I would say, are the biggest. Booking.com, I don't like them. I don't like them at all, but you could still make a lot of money on Booking.com, but they're just very disorganized. They have hotels, they have Airbnbs. Sometimes people get false expectations in regards to what they're getting. So I just don't really like that product, but these other sites are really good in order for you to go ahead and list that. Now, for deal analysis, Kathy, I'm gonna do the property that you shared with me actually, and I just did another property that was in the area, so we didn't have your address on here. But for deal analysis, what I do in order to check and see if this is a good deal for me, and I'm gonna speed it up a little bit because I'm seeing the time and it looks like it's 12 a.m. outside. So I always put in the property address inside of Airbnb. I want to see what exactly they have within the area in regards to highlights. So all of these gray buttons right here are highlights. If anybody wants to follow along with us, just click the link that's inside of my bio and that'll bring you to the Zoom. So you have different highlights that are in your area that you're going to see, but now I'm able to really see where exactly my property is located and what the competition is for the time frame that I did. So I did this for like what is this, a week out? So now I'm able to see who else has short-term rentals in the area. Now, with that being said, we are going to look at different anchors that are going to let me know if my property is going to be good or not. Another website that you could do is AirDNA Market Minder, and AirDNA is cool, but you do have to pay for this service. So if you're not willing to do the financial commitment at that time, then I would just go ahead and do the analysis on Airbnb. When I look at my anchors, what I am looking for is I'm looking for hospitals, I'm looking for airports, I'm looking for vacation destinations like Disney World or like Ocean Drive in Miami, something like that. I'm looking for colleges and universities, and I'm looking for convention or sporting centers. So those are the attractions that typically are going to bring people to any area. This is customer service and hospitality industry. Customer service, hospitality. As long as you remember that, it'll make it easier for you to think about different ways in order to improve your product. And the product just so happens to be real estate, but it's customer service and it's hospitality. So when you think about a hotel being built, a hotel is not going to be built in the middle of nowhere. Like, it needs to be people that are actually staying at the freaking hotel. So the people that stay at the Airbnbs are typically going to be going to the hospitals in the area, the airport. Man, you like hit it on the head. Everybody was staying at your place because they were going to Dulles. Like, that's it right there.
Or they had an overnight flight and they had to go right back out of Reagan.
And when you know your customer, you're able to really build and create a product based off of them. Because if I have a whole bunch of one night stays, I'm not doing a whole bunch of stuff. Like, for some of our properties, we had a lot of families that stayed there. So we would have pack and plays, strollers, children's toys, different things that somebody that's staying in the area for a long time would need. If you're staying at my property overnight, I mean, I'll probably get you a bottle of wine, which you can get bottles of wine from Total Wine for $3.97 that taste pretty decent, and they feel like you're doing something for them. You can get them a bottle of wine. You could get them some 99-cent earplugs. You could do like small, simple things like that because you know your customer now. So right. When you know who's staying at your property, then you're able to create a product surrounded around who's going to be there. So whatever the case may be, hospitals, airports, vacation destinations, colleges and universities, convention and sporting centers that are active. If you're in the DC area, I can't think of which one it is, but they have like a convention center that like nobody goes to. I would never do a short-term rental over there because it's not a major convention center. I think it's like FedEx Field or something like that. Like people won't go there. So I wouldn't base my short-term rental off of that sporting center. It needs to be something that's active. In Baltimore City, you have everybody that's going to the Ravens Stadium and the other stadium for the other people, Orioles. So those are two really, really good places to have your short-term rental. And also you have a lot of hotels that already have spaces over there, which lets you know that if the hotels have something over there, then I already know it's a good space. So now that you have that anchor, so I went ahead and popped the address in. I have that anchor. So I'm gonna look up the different anchors that I just spoke about. So we have the arena. So I actually just typed in sporting arena and we have Royal Farms Arena that popped up. When I typed in hospital to see what's the closest hospital in the area, Johns Hopkins Hospital popped up. So I'm gonna make note of that as well. I keep all of this documentation in a spreadsheet just so that and go back and look up all of that information to see if these arenas that I'm talking about, these hospitals that I'm talking about, these colleges that I'm talking about are like real places. Like I'm not looking to set up shop next to ICBC College. Like nobody's going there on campus. I'm trying to set up next to Howard. I'm trying to set up next to University of Maryland. Like I'm trying to set up somewhere where people are actually coming. So I make a list of all of those anchors that I was able to research. And when I do that, I can go back and I can look up and I can see if people are actually going there to, you know, like get procedures done, get whatever it is done that they need to get done. Like, is it highly populated? So we already know that Johns Hopkins is a major hospital. We've gotten so much business just off of Hopkins, and ironically, Marriott caught on and they put an Airbnb around the corner from like 5 of my properties, and I was pissed. But if you want to dive deeper into this, you can do AirDNA, and it's going to give you everybody that is that has a short-term rental in that area. AirDNA is also going to let you know what hotels are in that area. Oh, another good resource to find out who is in the area. This is another bonus for you all. Use Wheelhouse is another really good one that we use for our dynamic pricing. So Use Wheelhouse also has access. So if you don't want to do AirDNA, because they are expensive, like I said, they're like $40 a month, which is not expensive, but when you have a lot of other reoccurring costs, that can become costly. So Wheelhouse does not charge you unless you get bookings through them. I think because of the pandemic, they issued in like a monthly fee, but it's only like maybe like $10 a month or something like that, which is really great compared to having like $40 for AirDNA. So they also tell you how many short-term rentals are in your area, what other people pay for a similar type of property like yours. And then they're also going to let you know if there are events going on in your area. So this increased our revenue by 25%, which doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot. And for that, and for my students' revenue increased 50% by using Wheelhouse. It's not just the fact that they popped Wheelhouse on there and they set it and forget it. You gotta go through all of the trainings that they have so you're utilizing it properly. But what Wheelhouse did, so I don't know if you all ever heard of the Moonrise Festival, but that's a big festival for people who are into that type of stuff. And I never heard of it a day in my life. So I didn't hear about the Moonrise Festival until I started listing my properties. The Moonrise Festival, we had an apartment in this area called Charles Village that we used to do room listings on. Room listings are really good if you have an area near a hospital and you have a lot of traveling nurses. That's another thing. Make sure you take that down. Wheelhouse alerted us that the Moonrise Festival was going on that weekend. So a place, and this is Baltimore City. This is Baltimore City. I know these prices sound very cracky, but it's Baltimore City. The prices are a little low. We were only charging around $40 a night for that room. We ended up renting the room just for one night for like $96 just because of the Moonrise Festival. So imagine that happening continuously once you find out it's a Mary J. Blige concert in the area, it's the Moonrise Festival, it's this concert, it's that concert. And I know COVID kind of has knocked a couple of things out of the water, but you still have big events that are going on that are not getting canceled, and Wheelhouse can let you know about that. So that's another big hack.
So, Queen, I have a question about that. So, how far out do you change the price, and how much do you change the price?
Wheelhouse does that for you. So that's the beauty.
Oh, nice.
So it's automated, and I, after getting burnt out from this from my first couple of listings, I'm big on automation. I don't do that manual stuff anymore. It's cute when you first get started, you feel like you're doing something, you know, you might want to get you might be bored, you want to respond to people. You'll get over it very soon. You'll get over it quickly. So Wheelhouse will go ahead and they'll update your listing for you. And that's the way that they're able to know if they actually got a booking for you or if your bookings came from your general pricing. Because if they don't get a booking for you, then you don't pay them. Another dope thing, and if you want this information, I'm going to drop a link here. I could send out all of the details on Wheelhouse, the supply list. I could send that out too to anybody. And I also am able to send out, my team won't kill me for doing this, I can also send out a list to show you the power team that you need in order for you to automate everything. One more website I'm going to give you all is Smart BnB. So speaking of automation, Smart BnB actually changed to Hospitable. I forgot about that. Smart BnB is a system that automates your messaging. So I know you probably went through this with having every time somebody responds to you. Another quick way to get up in the roster on Airbnb, and this goes back, my apologies, I saw the question about the property management company. So I didn't have to get a property management company because I automated everything, and I hired, I did have a property manager, but when you start strong, you finish strong. So when you start with automating everything, you don't have to really worry about a property management company. You can hire 2 virtual assistants and they'll take over everything for you because you already have everything that's in place. My housekeepers are able to look over so much stuff for me that I don't even need a property manager. I need my VAs to answer these goddamn people, because property managers get burnt out too. After like 10 properties, like, a property manager is burnt out to me. You can't have over 10 properties and do property management efficiently unless you have a team. So it just doesn't make sense for me to have a property manager. So I use systems such as Hospitable. They're integrated with Booking.com now. And they actually integrated with VRBO and TripAdvisor first, but I don't think they're integrated with TripAdvisor anymore. But they are with Booking.com and Airbnb. But like I said, I don't like Booking.com like that. On here, you're able to have automated messages that go out to people. So as soon as somebody sends you a message, you respond back automatically. Why is this so important? On Airbnb, they have different ratings, and your response rate, my response rate went from an 80% to a 100% from using Hospitable. So now that I'm able to respond to everybody that sends me a booking request, I don't have to worry about that rating. The only rating now that I have to worry about is just making sure that they leave us a good review. You can also create a system on here, and it's pretty much like a drip. Like when they do this, you do that type of drip. But I didn't like requesting that they leave me a review, because when you're first getting started, there are a lot of things that you have to figure out. It's going to take you honestly about 90 days in order for you to get all those kinks out. My worst mistake with getting started with this was I started 3 listings at the same time one year, and I went to California the next week. My phone was ringing off the hook so bad. Like, I didn't even enjoy my trip. So it's going to take you about 3 months, I would say, for each property to get all the kinks worked out. So once you get those kinks worked out, then usually we feel comfortable about pressing people to like leave reviews and stuff. So I'm just gonna give you all a couple more things. Let me see, there was something else that I wanted to give. Okay, another good one. So a lot of people ask us about where do we find our properties at. So we do use real estate agents, but I don't like using real estate agents. I don't like using real estate agents. Real estate agents are cool for referrals for me. I don't want anybody else speaking on my behalf for my property that I'm getting. So I usually like speaking with the owner. If it's a property management company, I typically stay away from it too. We've used Zillow, we've used Craigslist, we have gone driving for dollars to just find places that are for rent. And this is only if you are able to do a commercial lease. Referrals from property managers though, and real estate agents are good as well, and just pay them on the back end. Social media too. I've put out plenty of posts. Hey, I need a property, 3 bed, 2 bath, who got me? And another good one is military by owner, which a lot of people don't look at. That one I've only gotten one off of, but in certain areas, military by owner like really hits good. So these are the places that I search for properties on, if you want to lease it or if you want to purchase. But I'm a big lease person. I like to do the commercial leases. When I do my commercial leases, last thing I would say, and then if we have any other questions, I'll definitely try to get that knocked out. Commercial leases are cool, but you want to make sure that you present yourself as a company. You need to have a website. You need to have a LLC. You need to, at this point in time, because it's so competitive, you optionally should have some business credit too, so that people aren't running your personal credit. Have all these things in place and people are going to take you more seriously. We used to do presentations. We would come with our iPad. You know, this isn't my iPad, it's my makeshift iPad. We used to come with our iPad. We'll do a whole presentation. That owner was not prepared for that. They were prepared to do a walkthrough of that house, show me the property, have me fill out a regular application. I was on that ass. Listen, this is my company, Enrichment Properties LLC. This is what we do. We do not do subleasing, because you're not subleasing. The people who stay at your property, they're not subleasing. So you're not doing subleasing. Listen, this is my company. We have contracts with traveling nurses, professors, colleges, university, people who are coming into town temporarily. We have a clientele that need properties like this. My company will be responsible for the rent in DC. In DC, if you know how hard it is to get somebody out of a property, me doing a presentation like this to somebody in DC is golden. Like, it takes them like 2 years to get somebody out of a property. So either they do Airbnb themselves, but if they want consistent rent and they don't want to do a whole bunch of Airbnbs, they want to find somebody reliable. It's your girl. I got enrichment properties. We do this, we do that, we pay the rent in advance, we do all these different perks, whatever you got to do to sell your company, because you're not doing this as a sublease. It is not a sublease, it's not a sublease, it's not a sublease, it's not a sublease. That's the other reason why I don't like using real estate agents, because they keep on telling these people that I'm subleasing. I'll be like, I'm not subleasing. This is a commercial lease because I'm responsible for this, and I'm not leasing this property to anybody else. They just so happen to be staying here for a certain period of time. Now, if they were staying at the property for over 90 days in most municipalities, I believe you would have to have them sign a lease. But these people are staying there for like 7 days. That's not a lease. So that is how I search for properties, and that is how we get the properties. We do a thorough presentation, pretty much selling the company and all the benefits it is to work with us and for us. And yeah, that's how I made 6 figures in 6 months on Airbnb. That's all I got for y'all. I hope that helps.
You gave a lot. You gave a lot.
Awesome. Yay.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, I hope that helped with that little snippet with your property, but I think your location is great. The only hurdle is the property being in your name in Baltimore City now. So if you're able to find, you know, like maybe working with a title company to get that switched over, because that's only a couple of $100 if you got the right title company. I think that would be a great location now that I'm seeing certain things pop up.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have questions? You can put them in the chat, or you could we can make it so you can unmute to ask questions.
Ooh, I hope I didn't freeze. Hold on. Can you all hear me?
Yep. So I guess I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is it a crazy amount of insurance for Airbnb?
So it was a company that was doing a lot of the insurance before, and I'm not gonna lie, I was being super risky. I honestly didn't get insurance policies on all my properties. I'm not gonna front. There was one company that we were working with called Splice that did a lot of insurance policies, but people got out of the game after COVID. You can get general renters insurance on your policy just to be on the safe side, and not mention that it is a short-term rental. That's kind of like under the table way of doing it without having to have these like large hefty insurance policies. You also can get insurance on your company as well, but if anything was to happen in regards to something being missing from the property, they wouldn't cover that. But if anything happened in regards to like somebody trying to say that you did something or a liability or something like that, it will cover you in that aspect. So you can still try out Splice. Rooster, I believe, is one of the companies that I also have used before, and they've done a couple of insurance policies for us. So we switch out companies, honestly, like we switch out underwears when it comes to insurance policies, because for rentals insurance, it's you can always find a better deal. For short-term rental insurance, it's a little it's a little difficult. The other thing that a really good short-term rental insurance company would do is they will cover you if you have any missed bookings. And that's the reason why a lot of people went out of business. It's because if you, let's say you have somebody that was supposed to be staying at your property for a certain amount of time, they cancel last minute. You had some short-term rental insurance companies that were covering that. Now, after COVID, that of course got very expensive. So that knocked a lot of people out of the business. You also do have $1 million insurance policy with Airbnb. So also keep that in mind. So I don't really worry about that too much.
Gotcha.
Long story short.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Queen, we do have one question from Miss Walker. She asked, do you own or only lease?
I've only owned 2 properties I put on the platform, and then the rest I leased. So you can make a substantial amount of money with leasing without having the liability of ownership. Now, I want to tell you one thing. I'm leaning now more towards ownership in the right areas. With my son now, him being 3, I don't want a whole bunch of properties that I have on a platform. I would rather everything kind of within the same area, like, so me dealing with, and it's not a headache because it's a cash cow, but I'd rather just deal with everything in one location, like more so on a boutique hotel type of side. But first getting started, if you want to scale, I would lease, because I can't go out and buy 12 properties, but I can go out and lease 12 properties and still make profit on each one. If you're only making $1,000 on each property, net profit, that's $12,000. If you're only making $500 net profit on each property, that's $6,000 for something that you don't own. And if something was to happen, you're able to get out of the game free and clear. Whereas the owner, they're going to have to deal with that. That's another reason why you want to make sure that you have your property in those anchor areas, because if you actually own that property, then you shouldn't have a problem with leasing it to a long-term tenant if you have those anchors that people are looking for in Airbnbs, because people are going to also be looking for those to rent as well. So,
and I'll add something to that. As a property owner in multiple cities, let me tell you, some of these property taxes are out this world.
yeah,
I mean, out this world.
yeah.
And usually the nicer the area or more demand that there is for the area, the higher the taxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hood taxes do not compare to taxes in the nice suburb. Okay, they just don't. And you know, you messing around paying $5,000 a year on a property, you got to roll that into expenses.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a $1,500 a month tax bill. Now you're talking about $5,000. That's a whole difference in your revenue every month. Then you have the insurance as well. So if I can control the property without owning it, I have almost zero liability.
Yep.
Let's take COVID. If I owned all those properties and that was dependent on Airbnb or short-term rental, and they stop, I guarantee you I'm gonna have to refi some properties, do some equity in some of those properties, something that's gonna screw me for the long term.
Yep.
If I have them under leases,
Mm-hmm.
hey, not saying that I would, but if I had to walk away from a lease, what's the worst gonna happen to me?
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
But guess what? I still got a place to live, and I'm not on the hook for all that. I'm not going to lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in equity because I ran up on hard times.
And that's literally what happened to me in 2019 when we had the laws that were implemented for the licensing in Baltimore. I had the tough conversation with the people that I was leasing from for some of these properties, but I'm like, look, it's a law in place. I ain't gonna be able to get 10 licenses. Like, I gotta go. I'm sorry, y'all can keep the security deposit, but I'm out of here. I paid my rent for the months that I was in there, but controlling an asset without owning it, like, I don't think y'all understand how powerful that is. If the money's there. If the money's there. Yeah. But the money,
That's a beautiful thing. We were taught a long time ago. It's not about how many you own, it's how many you can control without owning. Because
absolutely.
then your liability shoots almost down to zero.
That's a whole new idea of other people's money.
Yep.
That is, I like that. I didn't think about it like that, but that definitely is a whole new idea of other people's money. And trust me, like, the property owners that I've worked with, you know, they make it good in the long haul too, because one of the property owners that I worked with for a multi-unit, he was in the military and he got a position out in Florida. So he wanted to sell us the property. So that was his benefit right there. Like, he had like $100,000 worth of equity inside of the property and he wanted to sell it to us and move to Florida. It's like, you have a lot of benefits on each side. But in certain areas like Orlando, Florida, Miami, Florida, like certain places like that, I definitely do see the benefit of ownership as opposed to you doing a commercial leasing. So you got to test it out and see what the pros and cons of each area is to make sure that it makes sense. Like, are you going to be able to rent it out to somebody else if you own the property and you can no longer do Airbnbs because something like COVID or a licensing issue happens?
Okay. So, Queen, question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Joe Blow off the street and I want to get into Airbnb. Okay. And I hear about you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you offer? How can I get in touch with you? That kind of stuff.
So I'm gonna give you all a link and my team will be able to reach out to everyone. We right now, honestly, are not, like I said, doing boot camps anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I have too much going on. So I do consultations. I would do a way deeper dive than what I did. I just did like a short deep dive on Kathy's property, but we are able to provide a deeper dive in regards to your property, small hacks like the Wi-Fi, the remote, all these different things that are going to make you more money. Trust me, I am not tooting my own horn, but I know what I am talking about. So my students, even some of my students didn't want to listen to what I was saying. I'm like, you paid for the course. Why are you not listening to me? And then we sat down, we did a one-on-one, we changed some stuff. And that's when we started getting 30% increase, 50% increase, like just crazy stuff. So I just sent you over the link that they can use and they'll be able to get a phone call from us. We can supply them with the short-term rental supply list, which has over, I want to say 50 items, over 50 items. And these are all of the items that we use inside of our property. So like stuff like that really helps you to automate. I'm also going to send anybody over that contacts us, I'm going to send them how we get our power team together. So with our power team, our housekeepers, people that run tasks, construction company, all of that stuff, I have that inside there as well. So yeah, I'm really at this point in time, I've made so much money from this industry. I kind of fell back a little just to be able to work on other projects. So right now I'm just trying to give because I see that so many people are trying to get started now. And I'm like, I'm so glad I started in 2016 because
Ah,
I done been did this. Now I'm able to give because I had already made the money that I wanted to make from it, and now I'm working on larger projects. So anything I can do to help, just
so Queen, you're gonna have to help me, and because I'm not necessarily new to it. I have a few ideas, and when I explain to you about the demographics and what's going on in this area, and I'll come back to this real quick, and this will be my last question for the day or for the night. One, I'm gonna get with you myself, and we'll talk about Charleston, how we can work together.
yeah.
You're gonna have to help me out. You might not be open to the public anymore, but you're gonna have to help me out. And plus, I'm boots on the ground down here for you.
Awesome.
This is one thing people y'all gotta learn with all this quote unquote virtual. You gotta have partnerships, networks, people in other cities to
Yes.
help out. Okay, like I'm in Charleston, but I started in the Baltimore and DC market. I got more people than I can count that would help me out in those cities.
Yeah.
And vice versa with me being down here in the South, I cover South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina. This is where all the people come to for mobile home parks, things like that. I'm in the city of Charleston, and I do the least amount of business in the city of Charleston.
Really?
Literally, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's one of those cities that the city of Charleston itself, these people feel like their property is worth twice as much as it is.
Yeah.
Most people don't even touch the downtown area because almost everything is historic. You got a few developers that are lining the pockets of certain politicians that allow them to buy. So in short, there's properties that I would like to buy, but they won't sell it to me. Or I can't get my hands on it because of this restriction or that restriction. But then you look up a year later and all of a sudden this developer has bought everything on the block. And you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's very tricky in that area. Definitely, if you are familiar with like King Street, Street used to be the hood. You wouldn't even go over there before. And one year they had like a wildfire that went all across a row of homes over in that neighborhood, and they wouldn't let anybody purchase the properties, but then this one developer just so happened to be able to get the properties and developed it all. So it's, like areas like that, you just have to know where to go. Like I'll say definitely one thing for Charleston, you still have areas like Folly Beach that if you could find somebody that has like heirs property or something like that, you could get that for a reasonable price if they just want to get rid of it because like their great grandmother left it to them. Land development really though is a great thing in that area, and just putting like a module home or something like that. So it's a lot of different things that you can do. So yeah, we'll definitely talk. I'm still open to doing consultations, but the teaching, I always want to give more, and I know I don't have it to give. So
I understand.
I definitely do the consultations. I'll give you as much as I can give you during a one-off consultation. And if anybody wants to do a follow-up afterwards with any consultations that I do, I'm definitely open to it. But for the boot camps, temporarily, we went ahead and shut that down until we could figure something out that's a little bit more sustainable.
Okay, very well. It's getting late. This has been great. Are there any more questions? Queen, do me a favor, type your email address in there.
Yep.
So that we have it in case myself or anybody else want to get in touch with you. And if there are no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up.
We thank you so much. And we'll look forward to having you in the spring at the meetup. And we'd love it if you contribute something to our newsletter. And, the virtual REI Academy is going to be doing a live event for, I think it's 2, maybe 3 days in May. Maybe you could join us and do something live with us.
Yeah, definitely. Keep me posted. As long as I'm in the area and I know in advance, I'll contribute as much as I can.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. This was fun. Be sure to email me anybody that wants any additional information. If they click on that link, you can fill out that Podio form, and that's going to go directly to my team, and we'll be doing follow-ups between today and
Awesome.
Monday.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Queen.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good night.
everybody.
Have a
Take
good night.
care.
Bye-bye.